Silver just exploded past $90 an ounce for the first time in history. Not slowly, not over years. In a matter of days. Silver was under $80 on Friday. It's over $91 today. Copper just hit a new all-time high, up 40% in 6 months. Gold, record highs. Stocks, record highs. Homes, record highs. Debt, record highs, and rolling. Money market funds, record highs. Everything at the same time. This is what currency failure looks like. The US Mint just suspended all silver sales. They ran out because while you're being told that inflation is under control, the money supply just quietly jumped 1.65 trillion in a year. That's 116 billion a month. Printed, injected, debased. And now the Fed is panicking. PPI just re-accelerated. Rate cuts are being pulled back. Jerome Powell is boxed in. And Trump is not gonna like what comes next. But none of that is the real story. The real story is this. Every single asset that can be debased is being repriced at the same time. And when that happens, history tells us one thing. The hardest asset always runs last, and it runs the hardest. Bitcoin already flipped silver once. It's gonna do it again. And when it does, this won't look like a rally. It will look like a monetary upheaval. Because while bankers of the world are uniting to protect a dying system, the biggest middle finger in financial history is quietly preparing to go vertical. Orange Tuesday already hit Iran, and it's coming to a country near you. Welcome back, I'm Rustin, and you better strap in because we've got a monster of a show today. That's right.
The Fed has never been independent. You got a $38 trillion indebted, drunken country that is addicted to spending money. And you think the people that set interest rates is independent? I mean, like, be a serious person. Are we able to pay back what we've borrowed based on the growth we're producing today? When you have a number that's over 120%, the answer to that is overwhelmingly no. We have zero chance at paying back and making whole on the $38+ trillion worth of debt we've accumulated. And by the way, the cost of interest on our $38 trillion, well, it is over 100% of our receipts, of our revenue. So when you have debt to GDP at over 120%, and when your interest expense alone, guys, not our defense budget, not our Social Security budget, not Health and Human Services, just the interest on our $38 trillion of debt, we cannot pay with receipts. So understand this. The Federal Reserve, in setting interest rates, defines U.S. economic policy, U.S. foreign policy, the U.S.'s ability to defend itself. So mathematically, the Fed is the furthest thing from independent because these degenerate politicians have run the Great West and the United States of America into the fucking debt-ridden ground. The Fed has never been independent, and they're not independent. Now we have to admit it. Does it mean what Trump is doing is good? No, I didn't say that. But you want the truth? Mathematically, the Fed can't be independent.
There's no stopping this train, baby. Mahler's knows. Now remember, before the metals began running, Bitcoin had already overtaken silver, and it's going to happen again because Bitcoin always runs harder. That's why these runs in gold, silver, and everything else are telling us Bitcoin is preparing to go apeshit. Gold moves first. Bitcoin rallies harder. Now here's a little warning from Saylor and something to think about. What if you woke up tomorrow and Bitcoin was at 10 million?
Volatility was a gift to the faithful. It scares away the tourist. It scares away the lazy. It scares away the people that are already conventionally rich, that have all the money. If you're a 20-something or a 30-something and you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to spend 100 hours or 200 hours, if you have more time than money, then the volatility of Bitcoin is a gift to you. If you have more money than time and you're arrogant and egotistical and you just pick the obvious, then if the volatility goes away, you buy Bitcoin. If people in the rest of the world knew what I know and they understood and they agreed with me, Bitcoin would go to $10 million tomorrow. And if Bitcoin went to $10 million tomorrow, I want you to think about how you would feel and how your viewers would feel, because you would lose 20 years of stacking opportunity during which you get to buy at less than $10 million. So the difference between $10 million and 100,000, that's what you give up if the volatility goes away and people start to agree with you.
20 years of stacking opportunity gone. That's Max Payne theory, something Samson Mao has talked about, where normies and plebs get priced out in real time. Maybe Bitcoin in its purgatory has diminished your faith, but we're going to look at why right now is a blessing and why what's coming could be unimaginable. Let's check out that clip, then let's run down why the Omega candle could come sooner than many expect.
Max Payne theory, and then could you explain the theory? Like, where does it come from?
It's I think it comes from options expiry. There's a certain point at which the options expire. That's max pain. Like that'll cause the most losses for the most number of people. So you can apply that, I think, to Bitcoin in the world at whole. So if Bitcoin does shoot up to 1 million, that's probably max pain for the largest number of people, because instead of being able to make a material difference in your financial economic situation by acquiring a lot of Bitcoin, the quintillionaires are going to buy up all the Bitcoin, drive the price up, and you'll still have this divide between the rich and the poor instead of that being equalized. So basically 8 billion people are not going to be able to get in early. They're just going to be earning Bitcoin at 1M per BTC.
This exact type of move just happened in Iran. Iran's currency collapsed overnight and Bitcoin hit 100 billion. The people of Iran who saved in Bitcoin became rich overnight, while those who trusted the government, they lost 96% of their life savings. And maybe you think it can't happen here, like the classic by Sinclair Lewis. Amazing and foreboding book, by the way. The truth of the matter is that fiat currencies don't just fail, they fail spectacularly. And they're backed by governments and people's faith in the system. Well, I don't know about you, but faith in every institution in America is diminishing at a rapid pace. And it's kind of because, well, the truth is the enemy of the state. Like the guy said, trusting the government can cost you your life savings. Bitcoin has never been more important or critical in preserving wealth. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just revealed up to 10% of the U.S. budget is stolen each year. Now, why do we pay taxes again?
Tell us a little, just to begin, tell us a little bit about what you've uncovered about Somali fraud and some of the new policies that you've announced to try to combat it.
So Chris, first, thanks for having me, and thanks for breaking this story, because it's clearly something that's been going on and suppressed for so long. And you could see that the people of Minnesota have been carrying this burden, and they almost seem relieved. But what we've found, two things, really three. One, this, as you reported, this waste, fraud, and abuse in the system, bigger than anyone thought, and we'll see where that goes. Two, the leakage, and how does this get out of the country? Either if you were on public assistance and you were sending money out of the country, one of two things must be true. You were getting too much assistance because you have excess funds to feed yourself, your family, food, clothing, or you've got stolen money and you're sending that out. But in either case, money needs to stay in the U.S. or your benefits need to be cut. Three, how can we use the investigations in Minnesota as a model for what's happened and push it out to the other 49 states? Because Minnesota is likely the most egregious, maybe not, we'll see, I have an open mind, but the scale, just because of the population sizes, California, Illinois, New York, that what's going on here is a microcosm of what's going on there. And it's like someone on the panel said today, Benefits have been turned into businesses. It is a cottage industry of teaching people how to form multiple LLCs, how to game the system, how to move money around, and we'll see where the money goes. I'm here because what Treasury does is follow the money. We follow the money, and we have done it with the mafia, where we were able to take them down, Mexican drug cartels, and now these Somali fraudsters. And we can always do it. We'll see what kind of recoveries we can get for the American people.
Let's put this crap in perspective. This is frankly unconscionable. The United States has the largest budget in the world, approximately $6 trillion. The amount of dollars going to fraud, $1.5 trillion, plus debt services, that's $1 trillion, is almost half of the total spend. And it's greater than the entire budget of any other country except China just for fraud. Essentially, all of our income taxes are just a slush fund for fraud and waste, or just set on fire as interest payments on previous overspending. 10% of the federal budget is stolen. Another 20% is disguised as like vote buying. And another 15% is debt service to finance the past theft. Every dollar we give the IRS is stolen. The catalyst for a decade of Bitcoin dominance are upon us. Just listen to $15 Bitcoin ETF issuer.
Yeah, so Bitcoin's historically operated in 4-year cycles with 3 strong years and 1 down year. And a lot of Bitcoin analysts expected 2026 to be another 4th year in that cycle and it to be a down year. We released our predictions at Bitwise at the end of last year, and we actually forecast 2026 will be a positive year for Bitcoin. We think that there's multi-year tailwinds and catalysts that drive Bitcoin higher this year, next year, and over the next decade. Those things include institutional adoption, which first and foremost is the largest driver of Bitcoin's price rally. If you look back to when ETFs launched back in January 2024, Bitcoin was trading around 35 or 40,000. Today it trades around 90,000. And that's a function of institutional investors stepping into the space and having so much buying power at their hands and allocating to Bitcoin. 1, 2, 3, 5% of their portfolios now being allocated to Bitcoin. And we think that's just begun.
That's right. We've only just begun. And Strive is forecasting a humble 30 to 50% compound annual growth rate over the next 8 years.
We're in a digital gold rush. Well, over the next 4 to 8 years, we think institutional adoption increases drastically. We think sovereign adoption increases drastically. We think digital credit starts to permeate throughout the rest of the market. Because of that, those dynamics, you've got even the Bitcoin ETF being the most successful ETF in history. That success is going to breed more success, and it already has. So because of those dynamics, the macro environment, we see probably the next 4 to 8 years between a 30 to 50% compound annual growth rate for Bitcoin. And we think that will start to taper off as economies of scale and large economies of scale start to come into play. Once Bitcoin's at a $10 trillion asset, it's probably going to be significantly less volatile. And the compound annual growth rate will be reducing over time into the future.
But you think we get 30 to 50% over the next decade?
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Right. I mean, you look at the last 7 years, and it's been like 70% compound annual growth rate. Even what in 2022 is at 16,000, and what we're at 90,000 right now. What is that? That's a lot. A lot. Yeah, right. Like annualize that. That's 80, 70-80% probably. And I don't think it takes a lot of capital to move it much higher.
So one of the interesting things in the treasury world is that, like, when strategy came out,
if you ask me, they're both bearish, but these guys can give you an idea of where the normie winds are blowing. And at the end of the day, nothing is stopping this thing and the freedom virus from going ballistic.
So this is what gets me exciting. I don't focus on price and charts. I don't focus on government regulation. I don't focus on institutional adoption. I focus on the Bitcoin network effects, because that is ultimately what makes Bitcoin so valuable and why it's taking over the world. As more people get to know it, as more people have easier access to it, as more people adopt it as money, you cannot stop this technology. It's too late for that. If they wanted to do it, that should have been done on year 1 or 2. Now, it's a lost cause. So don't even waste energy contemplating that thought. But then again, you can expect different creative narratives. We had the quantum FUD coming out. Oh my God, supercomputers are going to nuke Bitcoin. it's going to go to zero. Says who? Says some idiot out there that is just, putting out information for engagement. That is not true. Follow the facts. Follow real intelligent people working on real solutions to address this nonsense. Bitcoin is the world's most valuable asset. We have never seen anything like it. Believe me when I tell you, there are millions of eyes watching the Bitcoin code 24/7. And there's too many big players invested in that asset to let frivolous nonsense affect it now.
Ignore the noise, adopt and embrace freedom technology, and let it do the rest. Now, Bitcoin is taking off, and maybe it has something to do with the Supreme Court not dropping their decision on tariffs, as they were supposed to or claimed to be doing by 10 a.m. this morning. I guess they don't know how the country operated prior to 1913, or maybe they just learned and are contemplating. Now, if they do rule against, I expect utter chaos and the greatest crash in Bitcoin buying opportunity in history. Now, Bitcoin could also take that news, regardless of the decision, and melt face and equities get destroyed. Why? Because full faith and credit in the dollar goes bye-bye. Now, we're about to bring it home today, but before we do, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Let's take a moment to recognize our sponsors powering this show over at the Bitcoin Way. At the Bitcoin Way, they'll walk you through all things Bitcoin, like it's kindergarten with Satoshi. From setting up your first wallet to running your first node and so much more. No tech skills needed. The Bitcoin Way has got you covered. You want $1 million Bitcoin? Better act like it. Self-custody is not optional. That is the revolution. Schedule a free 30-minute consultation with the Bitcoin Way today using that link in the show notes. Today's show is brought to you by Ledn. If you ever need cash without selling your Bitcoin, Ledn makes that possible. The global leader in Bitcoin-backed lending, Ledn has issued over $9 billion in loans since 2018, and they have a perfect record of protecting client assets. No credit checks, funds in less than 6 hours, no monthly payments, repay whenever you want with zero penalties, and proof of reserves reports, verified by a top accounting firm, are published every 6 months. Ledn gives Bitcoin holders a secure, transparent way to unlock liquidity without selling. Learn more at learn.ledn.io/simply. That's learn.ledn.io/simply.
If you look at the failure of fiat currencies, they don't gradually fail. They fail spectacularly. And this is the premise behind the 1 million Bitcoin call, that it's not going to be a gradual, slow increase to $1 million a coin, but rather a very short and violent upheaval that sends us there in a matter of months, weeks to months. And if you look at the hyper-Bitcoinization landscape, what you do see is more and more countries coming out and mining Bitcoin. Bhutan, I think, is the clearest example of this. They have close to $1 trillion now in Bitcoin holdings from mining over the past 4 to 5 years. So if this is not an indication that hyper-Bitcoinization is coming, I'm not really sure what is. But countries that have excess energy, they can tap into that now and convert that into money and use that money for financing lots of different things. I believe we're also on the verge of countries issuing debt, sovereign debt, to buy Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin bond program, it is going to come simply because the MicroStrategy model has illustrated that this works, and it works very well. And it's just simply a matter of time before a country pulls that trigger and unleashes a torrent of sovereign debt to acquire Bitcoin.
Let's go big finish time. Fiat currencies fail spectacularly. Guys, the debt is 38 trillion. I'm old enough to remember when it was 36 trillion. What, like 3 months ago? And no one is buying it. No one wants any of our debt. The fiat experiment has lost control. And whatever happens next, Bitcoin wins.
Okay, like, why is the US so bullish on Bitcoin and unfortunately crypto and digital assets? I think it's a necessity. They need it because no one is buying treasuries anymore. The world is moving away from the dollar, or trying to move away from the dollar, BRICS countries especially, and there just are no more buyers. And the traditional buyers are also having economic woes back home, right? So they need to have stablecoin issuers like Tether, that I think Tether is the 18th largest buyer if they were a country, to shore up demand. And I think $38 trillion in debt is not something that they can ignore for much longer. So they do need to build a Bitcoin reserve, a sizable one, to mitigate that debt, because people are kind of used to the number now, but 38 trillion is a crazy big number. And you're pretty bankrupt. And, you know, who wants to own more of your debt? I don't think it's possible to keep continuing it on that track. But also, just compounding of the interest is going to be ridiculous too. So something has to be done. And I think they realize the solution is Bitcoin.
Yeah. No, and Senator Lummis has that crystal clear. Right. This is the solution to, you know, the debt problem. And I had a very powerful conversation with her in DC earlier this year. And she was basically like, look, like, you know, this is how my generation makes it up for your generation, right? Is through this strategic Bitcoin reserve. This is how the United States get out of debt. Now, thing is, you know, maybe it's a little bit nihilistic of me. You know, after living through 2008 and, you know, seeing what has happened in the US and most countries around the world, they're spending more than they're, you know, taking in revenue. What happens if the debt isn't paid? What happens when things eventually break? And how long will that take?
It's hard to say. I mean, the alternative to fixing it is, you know, a debt jubilee.
Yeah.
A reset.
Yeah.
A great fiat reset.
Yeah.
You could also have a rebasing to Bitcoin. You'd say the debt is redeemable for sats. But before you do that, you should have a nice big chunk of Bitcoin in your reserves. But it's difficult to say. I don't really know what's going to happen. Like, the fiat experiment has gone wildly out of control. And I think you could say the nature of democracy contributes to that, right? Like, the nature of democracy is people get free stuff.
Yeah.
And then they vote. And that's the case in Canada. Like, why are the Liberals still in power? Because a lot of the older generation that get a lot of free things kept them in power. So it's sort of a question. We're at a crossroads right now. Where do we go? And it's hard to say. We can go on to a Bitcoin standard and I think repair a lot of that damage, or things get dark and the government needs to feed itself. They need money and they're going to get money by any means possible. Now, there's an opportunity there too, which is you can wean them off the money printing by getting them to mine Bitcoin. And we have a really good example of that today, which is Bhutan. They have over $1 billion of Bitcoin. They're building a new airport from their Bitcoin holdings. And they've shown that stranded energy, excess energy, converts to money. These are things that I've been saying for years, and now there's a very pertinent, very tangible example of it. And we were in Paraguay. We did a presentation and we met with the government there. Hopefully they can do something. We ran a calculation. Every year they're just running off 1,200 to 1,400 Bitcoin.
Yeah, the Itapu Dam.
Yeah.
Biggest dam in the world.
But it's the same for Canada. There's a massive amount of hydropower that's just run off or sold at a deep discount to the US. But many countries have excess or untapped energy, and they could easily tap that, just as Middle Eastern countries tap the oil reserves and sell that.
Yeah.
Now you can turn water into money.
And the possibility of World War III is higher than ever, which is probably a good time to visit our new sponsor, Sat123. Because when cell service dies, life doesn't have to. Sat123 hooks you up with real satellite phones, Starlink kits, and rugged off-grid internet that works anywhere. Mountains, ocean, middle of nowhere, it doesn't matter. If you care about preparedness, freedom, and staying connected when it actually counts, go to sat123.com. That's sat123.com, and don't forget to use promo code SIMPLY for 15% off. No signal? No problem. So Satoshi turned water into money? That's epic! What a line! Oh man, what a show today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know what you think down below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp by sharing the Sound Money Gospel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Love you guys. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.